Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/pettyrevenge. In today's episode, I got the kid permanently, you go the car. Temporarily. If you won't eat the meal, you don't deserve the dessert. Don't turn on our natural gas boiler in winter? Fine, we'll use electricity. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. I got the kid permanently, you go the car. Temporarily. I'll make it short. GF gets pregnant. Do the right thing and stick by her. We have the kid. She starts going out all the time, and we'd occasionally get calls at the house by guys looking for her. I knew she was cheating but didn't really care. I was just there to make sure the kid was well taken care of. Get a new job out of state and hoping that being there away from her bar friends will make us closer. Nope. She finds a new boyfriend quick. Tries to hide it, but she sucks at lying and hiding things. Again, no care for me. By now my kid and I are very bonded, and even at 18 months it's obvious he doesn't much care for her either. Came home from a trip. Can't find my kid. Walk into my bedroom and there she and her boyfriend are having a nice little romp. Now this was in the days before cell phones and we lived on the 3rd floor, so there was no escaping the bedroom without coming through the living room. So I just said, "When you two are done, I'll be in the living room," and walked out. 3 hours and a lot of whispering later they emerge. Walk the guy to the parking lot and explain to him I'm not mad at him, but be decent and don't mess in my house anymore and stay out of my beer. Go back upstairs, tell her to go get my son. Next day I get a new apartment and move out in 3 hours while she was at boyfriend's house and took the kid. Day after I filed for divorce and got full custody, which I won full after 2 years of legal wrangling. Granted, child support was jack shit, but it paid for beer for the next 18 years. I supported my kid. I never raised it on her because I'm a decent guy, but it was fun rubbing it in her face when she got out of line that I spent it on frivolous stuff for myself and bought him all of his clothes, toys, food, etc. out of my own pocket. It always made her fume for a few days. In hindsight, I should have put it into a savings account for him, but we all make mistakes in life. Now I had purchased her a Toyota Accord before we moved that we shared, but in the divorce she wanted the car, which I gladly gave her. Then I moved back to my state and with my parents and started life over. A few months go by and I start getting calls at work from the credit company demanding payment that was overdue. I explained numerous times that the vehicle was legally hers now and I would not be paying. Most of these guys were a-holes, but one day a very low-key guy called and said, "Look, we're just trying to work something out because we can't locate her." "Oh, well, why didn't you say so? Here's where she's living. The plate number is XXXXXXX, and I have it on good authority she is home right now. She didn't have a job." About 3 hours later my phone rings, and it's her, and she is pissed asking me if I told them where the car was because they just repoed and towed it. Yep, I say with a smug grin. Something you need to learn is if you don't pay your bills, you don't get to keep your stuff. By the way, my lawyer is paid off. How is yours doing? Click. That was a great day. Edit. Thanks for all the positive responses. I'm no hero or great dad. Just a dude that did what it took to take care of his kid through life and do what it took to give him a good one. Parents that say they sacrifice for their kids disgust me. Sure, there was a lot of shit I could have bought, done, gone to, etc. if I wasn't supporting him, but taking care of him was a lot more rewarding and fun. The only bad time we had was when I tried to coach him in t-ball. He's always been the laid-back type, and I'm way too competitive. He didn't like baseball, and after that season we agreed that I needed to stay away from practices, etc. if he got involved in something of interest. Yes, it was a Honda Accord. Come on, people, that was 30 years ago. For you doubters, this story is 100% true. I still have the paperwork and documentation, including the deposition transcript. Since my ex and I divorced due to his cheating, I constantly get calls from collection agencies looking for him. Considering he hasn't paid child support, tuition, or anything else for the kids in years and still sees them regularly, I'm only too happy to give his new number and address to each one. And his new wife's info, too, the one he cheated on me with. Yes, revenge is always best served sweet, or whatever the saying is, LOL. Take everything they have. I didn't know Toyota made Accords. I thought that was Honda, LOL. Good story though. Oh shit, you're right. This was 30 years ago. It was a Honda. Thanks for the correction. If you look at the range map, the two species intermingle in central Japan. Huh, that last part of the story was similar to something that happened to me. My older sister moved out at 16, but often still put my parents' address on legal forms. She moved often, so there might be a legit reason, but also would not put it past her to do so for not legit reasons. Every so often we would get creditors calling our landline to look for my sister, and most would stop calling when we would tell them she doesn't live here and hasn't for years. One creditor kept calling and getting more and more aggressive. He then went over the top, threatening me, saying that he will call the police on me if I don't put my sister on the phone. It just so happens I had a job adjacent to the law, so I knew enough to know his threat is BS, and also that his constant calling and threat could be considered criminal harassment. So after he was done ranting, I threatened him myself and said if he ever called here again, I would be the one to calling police, and hung up. About 2 minutes later, the phone rings again, and I am about to go off on this guy. Turns out it's the first guy's manager, who apologizes and explains that they're actually looking for my sister's ex-husband, who leased a car, stopped paying, but they cannot find him. Then he offers me and my sister $2,000 if we can track him down. After I get off the phone, I call her, but alas, my sister had done such a good job ditching this guy, we were unable to cash in on the $2,000. Well done on your part. Nice job on being a good father to your son. He was aces and we were always close. Good kid too. Never got in trouble at school. A, B student, and so on. I'm very proud of him. If you won't eat the meal, you don't deserve the dessert. Background: my roommate is a really good cook. I grew up on super bland food, so it really doesn't take much to impress me, and they make fun of me for it often. I'm hella lazy, and before they moved and ate mostly stuff I could microwave because too lazy to cook, and I have serious issues with doing dishes. They used to cook 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes more, sometimes less. They've been here about 9 months, and I've actually cooked a meal about 5 times. They had some of my first meal and didn't even try any of them after that, even though each one was completely different from the last. I've made baked goods a handful of times, and they usually eat a large portion of that. I like to make Cornish hens for Christmas dinner. Been doing it on and off for about 10 years. I've gotten pretty good. Before I even got the stuff, I asked if they would eat it. They said maybe they might not even be here for Christmas. Today, I told them to tell me if they were heading to being hungry in the afternoon so I could start earlier. They said they are always hungry, which is kinda true. Jerk is almost always eating. They should be big as a house but aren't. About halfway through cooking, they came in for a snack and ate some chips. I said it's only about 20 more minutes. Are you going to eat it? They got an attitude and said yes, and that they are definitely going to have some of the cobbler I had made earlier in the day. Literally 5 minutes before it's ready, they come in and start toasting bread and butter. I'm like, dude, it's gonna be ready in 5 minutes. Do you plan on eating this? Because if not, I can invite another friend over. They got an even bigger attitude. All, yes, I'm going to eat. Chill out. Mare. I'm like, all right. Everything gets done. I plate up my portion, knock on their door to let them know it's finished. I was already out of the kitchen but heard them plating up and then go back to their room. When I get done, I go back to the kitchen, and this dude had taken 1 Cornish hen leg, not enough green beans for me to notice any difference, and not enough roasted red potatoes for there to really be any difference in what I left either. I was pissed. They took just enough so that they didn't lie about saying they were gonna eat it but didn't actually eat it. If they had just said they weren't going to eat from the beginning, I could have had someone else come and enjoy it with me, because I know they have a history of not eating my cooking, only my baked goods. So, knowing they were going to come looking for the cobbler, I hide that shit. We have a beverage fridge in the garage. There aren't and haven't been any drinks in it in a few weeks, and they don't really go out there now that it's cold, so I stuck the whole dish in there. Sure enough, about 30 to 45 minutes later, they come out to the kitchen. I hear them clean their plate and then start opening stuff looking for the cobbler. They were all, "Man, is all the cobbler gone?" I said, "You didn't eat the meal, you don't deserve the dessert." They were expectedly pissed, saying that was ridiculous. I told them if they had just said they weren't going to eat it so I could invite someone over, it wouldn't have been an issue. And they've been in their room throwing a fit since. I'll eat the cobbler and the leftovers for the next few days, while I fully expect them to be a vindictive ass for at least 2 days. but it felt amazing taking that away from them when they couldn't be a decent human being for once. Edit to add, I forgot to mention that I asked what was wrong with the hen for them to not eat it. She had the audacity to say that it was just a hot. I've witnessed this asshat gobble piping hot food and wine because they burned themselves on multiple occasions. Edit. Because it's obvious from several comments people think I'm just some POS man taking advantage of some poor girl. That's not the case. I'm a woman that owns the house. We're/were, depends on the day sometimes, friends. He is a man that quit his job and then got kicked out of the place he was staying. I am a people pleaser and originally he lived here for absolutely nothing. Then, when a week or two turned into longer, we agreed to cooking and groceries, then much later to a little bit of money, all at his suggestion. It's my house, so I clean all of it except the dishes he creates, even the bathroom where he passes on the floor when he's drunk. I also drive him everywhere, because even though he has a car, he has driving anxiety and I don't mind. He hasn't driven himself anywhere since the middle of June. So, yeah, not some creepy man taking advantage of some poor little girl. He openly admits that I do way more for him than he does for me. Final note, we talked it out. He apologized for snapping at me when he was making the bread sandwich thing. That he had actually intended to eat more later in the night after the cobbler, but admitted to having had too many snacks and just wanted the sweets at that point. Said that he was thankful that I tried to make the day as good as it could be for him. The cobbler has been returned to the main fridge and ice cream procured to have with it tonight. How could you have any pudding if you don't eat your meat? If you don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding. Why didn't you just invite someone over anyway? You could see where this was gonna go, so sorry. I didn't want it to go to waste, so I've invited X over for dinner. So you did this to someone who regularly cooks food for you while you cooked for them 5 times in almost a year? I think they're the one who are gonna get revenge on you. You just opened a can of worms. Wait, they've been cooking for you all year, and you're snippy with them after harassing them over whether they're going to eat what you made or not. You're the one who doesn't deserve dessert. Don't be surprised if this causes you to stop being lazy and cook for yourself more. Don't turn on our natural gas boiler in winter? Fine, we'll use electricity. I was just reminded of this while responding to another thread. It happened over 15 years ago. My ex-wife and I were both students near Calgary, Alberta, and rented a basement suite that the landlords had converted from an unfinished basement plus garage space. Rent included utilities and internet. The only problem, the house was on a boiler, and when they walled in the suite to separate it from the garage, they installed the thermostat in the garage instead of in the suite. This led to several problems the following winter. Every time the temperature got below -10 degrees Celsius, about 15 degrees Fahrenheit, our suite would plummet to 12 to 14 degrees Celsius, 54 to 57 degrees Fahrenheit. We brought it to their attention each time, and for 12 to 48 hours after that, it was a balmy 20 to 22 degrees Celsius, 68 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit, in our apartment. This kept happening, though, and we kept complaining. After the 5th or 6th time, we told them that we couldn't even keep things comfortable with a space heater. We added that it would cost a few dollars a month more in gas to heat our apartment properly. Running a space heater would cost much more than that. They apologized and, once again, we had heat for a couple days. Then we had a cold snap and the temperature dropped to -40 degrees Celsius, -40 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and our apartment plummeted to 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Cold face, we were so cold that we started wearing our coats, not just sweaters or even jackets, inside. That was the last straw. So my wife and I decided to stop complaining and take matters into our own hands. We bought a large box fan, opened the oven, and placed the fan on its door. We turned on the oven and, within an hour or two, had a reasonable 19 degrees Celsius, 66 degrees Fahrenheit in our apartment. We kept the temperature around 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, 64 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, throughout the cold snap, about 2 weeks. Some warm weather followed for the next few weeks, and then we got a knock on our door. It was the landlord. Turns out, their electric bill was $650, up from their usual peak of $100. Now, something to know about the law in Alberta. If utilities are included in rent, you cannot charge the tenant for overages, whether reasonable or not. You can only sue if they were willfully negligent. I pointed this out to the landlord and they threatened to sue, idiotically believing us to be the negligent ones. I replied that I'm sure a city inspector would be happy to hear about your illegal basement suite in which you didn't even have the decency to install a thermostat and how, as a result, we've had to endure temperatures closer to freezing than to room temperature, and then threatened to countersue and finished with, "Who do you think is going to win that fight?" Suffice to say, we had a nice, cozy, and reasonable 21 to 25 degrees Celsius, 70 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit, in our suite for the remainder of the winter. I needed this today. Did it warm your soul? LL got off cheap. The laws here in Alberta are very clear on this matter. I don't understand. I assumed the garage would not be heated, so if you set your dial to 20, the heating would come on and stay on until the thermostat in the garage got to 20, which it never would because there's no heating in the garage. So wouldn't it have the opposite effect of making your apartment unbearably hot? The landlord put the thermostat in the garage so they could control their heat. I remember my mom looking at the thermometer and saying, "Well, it's 50 below. I better drive you kids to school." Our one and only ride to school. Northern Wisconsin, 1960s. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you in the next video.